On the iOS, Android, and Windows Phone platforms. And we work on our own IP, which is where we create our own content in-house, as well as we partner with different brands and licensing partners where we create games based on that brand. Yeah, I'll get to the rest of the questions as Suresh progresses. Thank you.
Content products, including all the developer support and ecosystem. So specifically, since Suresh asked, what do we do for developers? So we intend to support developers across, right from the time they conceive a product all the way till commercialization. We have various themes undergoing. So in terms of conception itself of a product, we provide UX support, we provide some mentorship and all that. Then during the creation, we provide device support, we provide certain APIs and stuff. So for commercialization in India particularly, we have APIs available where you can use Vodafone prepaid, postpaid stuff for microtransactions, billing, etc. So more details as we speak. Okay.
Hi, my name is Pratyush, Prasanna. I head the Bangalore office for Paytm out here and look at most of the products that come out of Paytm. Paytm, as some of you might know, and as Suresh mentioned, is we do the maximum number of transactions on mobile phones in India today, and we have about 15 million odd downloads across app stores. So we'll talk more about how we got there post the session.
Okay, so Karthik, let's start from you because you are my okay. So you did speak about how operators are trying to help developers, right? Are there any example of the companies that have
best possible internet, best possible stores, your Apple Store and Google Play and everything else. So if you want to reach only that segment, operators are not going to be useful at all. But when you actually want to hit that early majority, if you look at the diffusion of innovation stuff. So when you want to look at that early majority, late majority, and all that, where users are still using high-end feature phones or very low-end smartphones and all that, the behavior of these guys are not what you expect, from the high-end audience. If you want to reach to these guys, I believe operators are still extremely relevant. The app stores that we have, the kind of promotions that we can do. So, I mean, given the reach that we have, given the everyday customer involvement that we have with people recharging and all that, to reach to these guys, we are indeed relevant. And we have broken our shackles, to be honest. So there was a time when everything was walled garden, you provide your stuff on white label basis and so on. We have moved from that world. So, large organizations take their time to, shake up and stuff. But I think we have made fair progress at Vodafone, where, we now provide APIs. We don't want to be part of that. We just want to enable your transaction and so on. So in that sense, to reach to the mainstream, we still are relevant.
But can you give us some numbers? What is the numbers that we think we can reach out to if we work with Vodafone today? And for example, does Paytm look, they have 15 million downloads, okay? And what is that we can help them to get to?
Specifically about the Paytm, I cannot answer, I think we'll have. But then there are, well, with respect to, I would say, our app stores alone, I don't have the numbers from India handy, but the Africa numbers, we see about, 1 million downloads every week from our app store. So this is purely in terms of reach. If you look at the kind of transactions that happen over subscriptions, it's a lot more. As in, people have downloaded the app and then they have subscribed to your service and so on. Other part comes where the credit card penetration and so on, which I think is fairly known to everybody about the microtransactions, how you cannot do with credit cards, and the penetration of credit card with the segment itself and so on. So with respect to numbers, I can't give you numbers right now, Suresh, but I think with respect to companies, I think NewsHunt has done well integrating with our APIs in India. News and app, right? So with all their magazines, you can buy one edition of magazine. This week's Outlook you can purchase using NewsHunt and all that. So they have done fairly well. Other content company I can think of is PK Online, which have their video-based services.
Not the PK of America.
No. I know that. So these have, I can remember these. So another point I want to make here is that, if you're just starting off with your app, it's going to be very difficult for us as operators to help you. We will help you in terms of providing you UX support, providing you with device support, probably even featuring in our app stores and all that. But if you expect a TVC to be made out of an app that got launched last week, that's going to be extremely difficult for an organization like Vodafone to do.
So if it is 1 year old, you will make the TVC for us.
1 year and some traction, right?
Okay.
So it's not about 1 year.
Note that, okay? That's
So that is when it would be possible. But we work with developers across all stages. But as I said, early stage, the kind of support is different. Late stage, it's different.
All right. Okay. So Pratyush, can you tell us how did you got into your first million users? Okay. And
so Paytm, thankfully, at least the way we started was, we were pretty much the first or the second movers in the market. Recharge itself was a very painful process. With all due respect, the options were Vodafone, Airtel, their respective sites. It was not easy. So one of the first things that we did was make it very easy for people to do the recharge. I will actually help that statement with what we have done for consistently getting the largest number of transactions as well as a very high number of downloads. So for every release, what we typically do, and we had a release of the marketplace. I'll tell you what the genesis of that thought was, but we had a release of the marketplace. Rajan was there about February, March. So what we did was, like a month before that, we actually reached out to a lot of people who review apps and gave them free access and some free, credits to play around with. The reason for that was twofold. One was that people typically, sticky people come when there is somebody who advises or somebody who says that this app is good. Second is that in order to consistently have a lot number of downloads, it is very important to be on the featured list of Google Play. So what we did was we consistently had a few people who review apps and blogs which cover technology, and had them ensure that they covered our app on a weekly basis or on a staggered basis, so that that momentum is maintained. Similarly, when we reached out to Google, the other thing that we did, and which most people miss out on, is that we made sure that all our standards were adhering to whatever was the advised UI elements in Google. Most people don't look at that when they think you're monetizing, finding and engaging people. But what that also means is that it's that much easier to go again in that featured list of Google, which in the Play Store, which automatically assures you 10-20,000 downloads more per day. Then what happened is, then you built a case where you said that our app is very good looking, it adheres to your best standards, and look at so many people talking about it. So why are we not featured yet? So that's a much easier story to tell to somebody at Google rather than and inviting Rajan for the opening ceremony was not part of that strategy, but
but that's a tip you are sharing.
The rest are all much more important tips, where most of these most of these very easy things are what people should do to at least get initial traction.
Right. So, Anila, Rohit always talks about how good your relationships with Apple and other stuff. Okay, and can you share some tips about the whole App Store hacking or Apple hacking or this one? How did your relationship help you guys to reach where you are today?
Okay, so there are different ways of getting growth for your game or your app. There is organic traction, there is paid traction. So organically, like Suresh mentioned, having a good developer relationship with different platform providers is very, very crucial and essential. It sort of gives you an edge over the rest of the app developers or game developers out there. You're not really promised a feature slot, but at least you have an avenue to get there. If your app is consistently of great quality, that is one of the best ways of getting users on board. But apart from that, there are several other options that you could take. You could talk to different journalists or editors or reviewers to cover your app. Pratyush just covered that bit a little. Word of mouth always helps. So in terms of games, if you are playing a game and you have a friend or your family member sitting adjacent to you, it's so much easy to explain this game and get their attention. So word of mouth and things like that really helps a lot. Coming to paid user acquisition, there are several things that you need to keep in mind when you're getting onto this channel. First of all, you'll be working with several ad networks. So some of the things that you might want to keep in mind is to work with an ad network that is very transparent, which has a good user experience, so you can track your data and attribute your data, so you can build a better consumer base, better audience. And like I said, if you have great quality app, there is nothing that's going to push your app forward.
You spoke about quality. Can you just talk us, take us through some of the UX and the testing experiences that
Certainly.
from
Certainly. One of the, in terms of gaming, there are just so many games on the store at this point in time, and most of them are engaging. But what are you going to do to sustain or remain a little longer? So I think one of the most important things that each app developer or a game developer has to take into consideration is look into your onboarding experience. Your app should not take over 2 seconds to launch, because that's what most of the smartphone users expect from a good quality app. Your user is not going to wait more than a minute to understand what your app is going to do. If your app is going to take longer to explain the tutorial or what the basic utility of that app is, a user is just going to leave it there and move on to maybe your competitor. So I think that's one of the most important things in terms of engagement. But apart from that, like I mentioned, having a community or a forum or a social experience within your game sort of helps with engagement a lot. We have one of these games that we very recently released called Starship, and the engagement numbers out there are very exciting. There are users who come in day in and day out at least 15 to 16 times every day, on a day-on-day basis. So what keeps them engaged is definitely the quality of the app, the onboarding process, the fact that they can engage with other users, and engaging with users means that your user is going to be invested in a game a little longer, and you have a better avenue to monetize that user too. Yeah.
So, Karthik, you did speak about the news hunt experience with your in-app kind of building, okay, and this one. So, other than the traditional vast building that we are aware of, okay, and are there any new monetization opportunities that operators are extending to developers, and how would they integrate it?
Well, yes, you see, the APIs are available, so it doesn't say what you can, but there are regulations. So where it fails is, you cannot sell, let's say, groceries over a mobile phone thing, because that's regulation. So regulation says that you can use your prepaid balance or your postpaid billing, the mobile billing basically, for digital goods, which means that you can download a game, or in a game you can make some in-app purchases, etc. Or like a news, and you can sell one magazine or a subscription to a magazine and so on. So it's essentially about digital goods. So non-digital goods by regulation is not allowed. So which means
not even services. Not even services.
Well, things are grey over there. So the question is, let's say a movie ticket. So is that a physical good, or is that? So you may get entry into a film theater with a ticket on your mobile phone, so which is a digital good, so to speak. But over there you collect a pass to go inside. So that's grey. So we cannot clearly say that what is allowed, not allowed, because regulation doesn't clearly define those kind of elements. I can clearly tell no grocery purchase, I can clearly tell you can download a game, but for a movie ticket it's kind of grey.
And what about, you said API interfaces for the developers on the app, and what about the revenue share and other stuff? Anything happening in that? Very
much. Gone are the days when operators used to eat everything and all that, at least Vodafone, so all that is gone. So
that's why he's the only one wearing blazer, yeah.
So the revenue share is very developer friendly. So as much as 70% as you might get from Google, Apple is what goes to developers. But then there are ranges. If the app makes only 100 rupees, then the whole transaction and everything, the so to speak clerical work that we have to do is high. So there are ranges which you can refer to our site partner.vodafone.in. But it's not favoring us; it's favoring the developer. Even our app stores that we run in Africa, as I said, it's 70% to the developer is what it is.
Pratyush, okay, we are talking about the payments, and probably one of the hottest areas right now. So, the payments. So I know that you guys basically sell digital goods, a startup, okay, recharge, subscription, and sell this one. Okay, so what are the options the developers have today in terms of integrating billing with any of the apps that they have, mobile billing? I mean, other third-party services coming up wherein people can just plug it in to get the mobile commerce onto their app.
So that's like a very open area today, because primarily speaking, developers don't have many options. The only all-pervasive option that they have is operator billing, which is 30%, and in spite of what Vodafone, Airtel, others think, it's still a significant percentage. It's like, if you have 30% of a company you own, then you can stop it from doing anything. Anyways, but the point is that consider that and MasterCard, Visa, which takes 2 to 3%. So that's like a full degree difference. Especially if you're thinking selfishly from a developer point of view, how much I'm going to sell this for if I'm listing this for 100 rupees. So having said that, there are interesting plays in payment that are coming up. Some of them online in the sense that browser based. Some of them like us, who are trying to do interesting plays on apps, primarily SDK based, like us, MobiQuick, leveraging our wallet infrastructure, wallet and saved card infrastructure, where we say that we are agnostic to the service provider. We provide you an easy avenue for collecting payments. And what that means is that you'll also have to make sure that the guy who's collecting the payments is also kosher, right? Like, you don't want to be in a gray area or in a definitely black area where he's selling beer online, right? So what we try to do is, some of us are trying to do is getting them onboarded as merchants, primarily on the net, where it's clear that this guy wants to do, and then helping them collect payments on apps as well. So yes, I think in the next year or so, next year, 18 months, we should see a lot of options for people to collect money for their apps, apart from the ones that exist today.
That's right. So before we open it to Q&A, Anila, I just want you to talk about some of the monetization that you have seen. Does in-app payments really work in India? Some of those inputs from the India and global perspective.
Okay, so from a monetization perspective, there are different ways to build in your monetization model for your app or your game. One thing would be the pay download option, where you just price your app upfront and expect users to download the game, and you would monetize upfront. Another option would be to go freemium, where you would have in-app purchases. The app is essentially free, but you would have an in-app purchase model fixed in. So if a user wants to use your app for a prolonged basis, he may have to subscribe and pay maybe $1 or $2 to proceed further. Or in terms of games, he might have a waiting time, where he is probably harvesting his crops, for instance, and he has to wait for about 3 or 4 hours, and he wants to speed up that option. He would be spending $1 or so out there. Another option would be to go in with the advertising model, which is sort of more suitable to the Indian audience. Let me give you a few examples. So we had released Doom 3, the game, last year in October, and October to we have had overall around 50 million downloads so far. And in that spectrum, mostly it was an Indian-based game, one of our first games that was catered to the Indian audience. And out there, about 60% of our revenue was from ads, about 30% of revenue came in from brand engagements, and just about 10% of our revenue came from in-app purchases. That is talking from an Indian context. But if you look at our other games, the game that I mentioned about just a while earlier, Star Chef, which is a more global game, it is driven primarily through in-app purchases. So out there, you would probably have a 85% monetization happening through in-app purchases and the remaining 15% through ads. And it could be tailored, so you would want to figure out whether you want to show ads to all users or segment your users and see those users who are not paying, probably showcase ads just to them. There are these different factors that you would have to take into consideration, but apart from that, you might also want to look at the platform. Which platform are you catering to? Are you catering to an iOS platform or the Android platform? So stats reveal that iOS users are about 32% more likely to be open to paying for in-app purchases or making a purchase at all. But on the other side, Android shows larger numbers in terms of volume, so you might monetize users better via an ad model out there. But it again depends on the kind of game or an app you're looking at. Every app or game has a different model, so whatever suits.
Guys, just a caution, she had 50 million downloads here. Okay, so she could make money because she had 50 million downloads. With this, we will open for any other Q&A. If you guys have any questions, we'll take it up.
Developer perspective, we have seen that we download some of the games, but while downloading the game, it asks for a lot of permission, camera, contacts, all these things. How the company who is developing this game, getting this information and monetize on that is what?
It's not about, it sort of depends on what your application caters to. If your application is catering to a location-based system, you would have to ask the user for permission to, allow the user to give us permission. Otherwise, you're not going to get a good experience with that app. Likewise, if your app or game requires you to authorize your Facebook, get connected to Facebook, that is another area where people are a little jittery. They're not very convinced enough that they should share their private information on a game or an app. But again, it depends on the kind of experience that that particular user is going to encounter by giving these kind of permissions. So from a developer's point of view, you might want to consider when and how you are going to approach this area. In the sense, how are you going to tell your user to enable location? You might tell him the benefit that he's going to gain, and that might entice him or compel him to enable locations. Or for that matter, push notifications. Not many users tend to enable push notifications because they think it's too alarming, or they may not get relevant content. But if you are going to tailor your app to time push notifications in a well-balanced frequency, as well as probably not alarm the user in terms of the noise and the time of the day that this notification could appear, I think you would be in a better position to send out these permissions out to a user. And a user might be more willing to accommodate them.
Related to this contact, when we pick up all the contacts of a smartphone user and push it to the server, right? And then is there any regulation? In India, I don't know there is one, but in US and other countries, if we use those contacts and push some messages, ads and
in India, you can't push.
Yeah, and those, there are terms and conditions also for each of these SDKs, so if you agree to those, only then you would be, going the next step. But it's not ethical to, share from the developer's point of view, to share that content to advertisers and things like that.
One question on the RuPay, which is a new Visa MasterCard kind of a network which NPCI has set up here. Are there some payment options available for the app developers? That is question one. The second one is in terms of, are there any ad, how easy is it to integrate an ad system into an app?
Do they have anything for that?
Yeah, so RuPay is a enabling mechanism somewhat like MasterCard Visa. The only thing is their margins are much lower. For Indian, and RuPay is coming big time in the sense that they are putting a lot of weight and money behind the effort.
And you can integrate it with the app today?
Today, maybe not. In 6 months, you definitely can.
And as far as ad, there are API, okay? It's a pretty standard stuff. Which will be. Any other?
user-generated platform, where we use a platform for user-generated content that is filtered from content information.
Can you give an example?
Still, like when you go to YouTube, there are all kinds of content. They're not all. Some focus on the platform, which is content or
I'm not really sure how to answer that question, but maybe I'll just cite a few examples and you can let me know whether that works right. So I'll talk a little bit on from the gaming side of it. Okay, so when we release a game or when we create a product, what we normally do is we decide where we are going to monetize. You've balanced the game in a form where you know that this is going to probably be a paywall. For example, most of you guys, I'm assuming, would have played Candy Crush Saga. So if you look at Candy Crush Saga, ideally you don't have to pay at all. Everybody gets the same content. But if you want to experience that game better, for instance, you want to clear levels and you want to go from level 1 to 30, you might just play it along and you may clear it. Or you might use a few boosters out there to help you get a better experience or get a better score to clear a level. Likewise, there might be a paywall where you want to unlock the next episode. So users who would want to unlock the next episode would pay out there. Or the rest of the users who don't want to pay upfront, they might play the game a little longer or invite their friends. There's a social hook over there. So that might be something, some area where I don't know whether I'm answering your question right. You just said about filtering, right? So that's the way I look at it.
Okay, I think we are running out of time. Okay, we will be around. Okay, during lunch. So feel free to go and talk to them.